All right. Hi, welcome to Conversations on Health, Happiness, and Hope. I'm Alicia, and Janae, I want to tell you Happy Mother's Day!
Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited that you're able to join in with us, whether you're live now with us or watching the replay. Today, we are going to talk about mental health, and we will be referencing Alicia's book, Share a Smile, Thriving in Life and Treatment. In this book, you talk about your experiences with mental health. So it's your personal story and all the things that inform that. And I thought it would be a great month to do that because this month there are two things that are happening. We have International Doula Month,
Cool.
and then we also have this Mental Health Awareness Month. So I think those two things are great because doulas are so instrumental in being a support for mothers, parents, and families during what could be a very stressful time, giving birth and introducing new children to the family. Um, so I just thought mental health would be a good thing to talk about this month. You also talk about, I think right at the beginning of the book, you talk about bullying and you talk about your experience with bullying. And that is a story that just really grabbed me at my heart. And we won't go into it today, but I do know that that is something that informs mental health as well. So
Mhm.
um, we could talk about that another time, but I do want to address that in the book. When you guys go to buy the book or you go to read it or listen to it on Audible, I think the very first chapter is about bullying, and or one of the first chapters is about bullying, and so it's a pretty incredible story there.
Thank you.
So the first thing I wanted to ask you about, you talk about depression myths. And I think that that would be really important to maybe kind of start this whole conversation off with.
Yeah, I think that's a good start. Something that is very difficult for people who are dealing with depression, such as myself when I first wasn't sure what was happening, is you worry about being called lazy or feeling lazy. But something that is so important to acknowledge is that fatigue is a huge symptom of depression. Of course, you're tired. The chemicals in your brain are making you fight on the daily, just about simple things in life, and it's draining. You're not lazy. This is something that just needs to be addressed. Also,
So when you're, oh,
sorry,
sorry, you weren't done.
sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say also, um, a happy person can be depressed. It's not just depressed people who always feel bad who have depression. And that is something that was also very tricky to learn.
Okay. So then that gives me another question to ask you. So I'll add that to it. So my first thing was going to be, so when you talk about lazy, what does that feel like or look like on a day-to-day basis? What is that feeling like? What does lazy in depression look like?
Lazy and depression is similar to lazy and anxiety of how you would think about it because the two are so closely entwined is you want to get up and go see that person, or you want to get up and go make yourself a sandwich because you know you need to eat, but you are feeling so drained and overwhelmed, and your emotions may be running high as well, that you can't make yourself get up to do those things.
Mhm.
Or when you have the time that you have set aside for something larger, you you might just be overcome with tears or what I kind of call paralysis. You're just stuck.
Mm-hmm.
You might even fall asleep.
So stuck, sleepy, wanting to do something, but just not being able to like get
Right.
up and just do it, which I definitely um have times when that happens. It's like, okay, I know I need to do the laundry and do the dishes, and I want to do it like in my mind, I've planned it out. But then when it comes
Mm-hmm.
time to do it, it's just like I'm just so tired. I'm just gonna sit on the couch and watch TV, or I'm gonna
Yeah.
read a book, or I'm just gonna do anything else but what it is that I decided that I needed to get done or do. And it could be like even like I made plans to go out with a friend, like
Mm-hmm.
something that I definitely really want to do, and then come day up, I'm just like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um. So yeah. So I definitely personally I understand that. Let's talk about a happy person being depressed. So from my view, you are a happy person.
Oh, yes. And
So
this
you
is what
tell
is
me
so
a little
confusing.
bit about that. Yes.
Yes. I remember when I was learning about clinical depression in psychology class in college, and I remember something that stood out where it said you could ask someone anything about their week, and someone who does not who does not identify themselves as having depression or has not been diagnosed with depression could tell you, oh, yeah, I went and saw my friend, or I had a really good meal and I enjoyed that meal. But someone with clinical depression may not be able to think of one good thing that happened. So that was something that stuck out to me because, in general, people generally saw me like my paternal grandma. My grandpa always called her bubbly. So I was always very smiley and laughing and really trying to lift others up. But it was in the quiet moments or the times when I was alone when that happy, bubbly, wanting to uplift others person seemed to fade away.
Oh,
And that was how I came to understand how happy people can feel depressed.
I was gonna write that down because that is I never really thought about that. Like you just can't think of one thing that was good.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you can say, "Oh, what was your favorite part of the day?" And be like, "I didn't really have a favorite part of the day,"
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. And then would that also come associated with that feeling? Would it feel like depression, or does it just feel maybe like monotone, or like everything's kind of gray?
That's a great question. I think this is something that is very subjective and depends on the person's self awareness, for one, and just knowledge of their own conditions, or even just knowing what depression, anxiety, and such is. Um, because for me, I I did not realize I had depression. I just knew that there were times when I was overwhelmed, like in a work meeting, and I just started crying. And I didn't know why. Nothing in the meeting was upsetting to me. um, or completely feeling like you're not there. I liked your idea of saying, like, is it gray?
Mm,
Because I do feel like it is a fog. Not necessarily that things don't seem vivid or bright, but that they just don't seem the way they are. And you're kind of going through the motions.
right. Yes. So I understand that because I feel like I get a lot of brain fog, and I don't necessarily know that it's depression per se. But I think I've mentioned this to you before. I've been depressed and not known I was depressed until I was almost done being depressed
Yeah.
because I was like, oh, I feel so much better. Nothing's changed. Well, then I look back, I'm like, oh, well, I was depressed. That's why I was feeling that way. But like that kind of sense of like walking through the world and doing my day to day, but it just feels like there's just like a coat
Yeah.
over everything. Or it's almost like you're kind of like maybe wading through some water and like, have you ever tried like running in water? What
Yeah.
that feels
Yeah.
like? Yeah. So that's like the kind of feeling I get when I get into those spaces sometimes. Um, do you think that some people could experience anger during their depression instead of the emotional side? Well, I mean, anger is an emotion, but more like instead of the sadness, crying, do you think people could experience anger on the flip side?
Yes, yes. So irritability is a symptom of depression as well. So there may be people who don't necessarily cry as much, and they may have that irritability be the stronger symptom and that stronger feeling. I've said in the past that men who who respond to depression and will actually talk about it have mentioned things about anger and how they
Mhm.
feel more upset with people or themselves or less patience, and realizing that that is how their depression is manifesting. Now, this isn't the case for everyone, of course. Like I said, this is very subjective and personal. Um, are
I
you
I am here.
charging your phone? All right. So, yeah,
Yeah.
just need to charge that. Uh, so, just wanted to let you know that that is something that can happen. So, that's a good question.
Okay. And so that would be mostly, well, maybe not mostly, but you said men are more prone to having the anger version of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Um, and the other thing that you talked about, so we talked about depression myths. And so some of the symptoms then could be feeling stuck, feeling sleepy a lot, being a generally happy person, but not really being able to pinpoint something that makes you happy or
Mhm.
something that was like a highlight of your day or your week, something that kind of excites you.
Yeah.
Um, feeling overwhelmed
Hmm.
and feeling angry and or crying and just
Yeah.
like a sense of fog. These could all be signs of depression. And then of course a person would have to see their doctor um, to know if it was clinical depression.
Correct. Because there can also just be circumstantial related to um, specific reasons for something such as a loss, whether it could be in employment, a loved one, something that is no longer in their life that they're used to, where that could be it. Something else that came up for me as well is eating habits. Eating habits
Hmm.
can change drastically during depression. That was is something that was a reoccurring thing for me as I wasn't hungry or I only wanted sweets or junk. That was the only thing that sounded
Ah,
like I could eat it at the time. And maybe that's just a comfort food thing for people.
okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because if I'm feeling bad,
Mm-hmm.
I want chips or I want chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will, yeah. I can binge white cheddar popcorn. I can eat a whole
Ooh,
pack by myself,
that,
especially if I'm like not feeling good. So yeah. Um, okay, yeah. So we talked all about that. And so the other thing we talk about in the book, which I found fascinating, and I find it fascinating because I experienced this as well, and that is um vivid dreams. Like really vivid dreams. Dreams to where I feel like, okay, this wasn't a dream. I was actually in an alternate reality and I just woke up back in my body. That's what it feels like. But you actually talk about vivid dreams and like how it can actually be an indicator for your mental health.
yeah. I did not know that you had vivid dreams yourself. That is something I just learned about you.
Yeah, we will have to talk about that on another episode. But yes,
We will.
maybe yes. See if I can get my video to come back.
Oh, there you are again.
Okay,
Welcome
there.
back.
A different angle, but
I'm glad it's working. Vivid dreams is something that is very interesting. Now, Chris calls me like a researcher or a scientist in this way because I am very interested in how things work and I like to hear about studies and read studies. I don't remember the specifics, but there was a study where doctors started asking all of their patients about their dreams. And the reason for this is because those with chronic conditions tended to have more nightmares or vivid dreams when their chronic condition was flaring up. And this can be the case for depression and anxiety as well. And our subconscious works on these stressors while we're sleeping.
ah,
Now, it's not, the dream world is not clear. It's distorted in many ways, usually place,
mhm.
person, time, and things just jump around. And oh, I was at my dad's house here, and now I'm at school. I'm not sure why, but this is what happened. And vivid dreams are also something related to idiopathic hypersomnia, I found out, which was very fascinating to me. And the one that scared me the most that I read about, which I'm hoping that we need more research on because it's just kind of scary, is doctors who were looking at sudden onset nightmares and patients who had dementia 10 years later.
Hmm.
There's so many interesting things and theories when it comes to dreams.
That is really interesting because and I'm going to change the camera again, so just bear with me.
Very.
All right, there we go. um, because as you know, I have Hashimoto's and I have arthritis. And it's a chronic condition. So and I just had a session the other day with my massage therapist, and she said that, oh, are your knees hurting? Are your legs hurting? And I said a little bit, and she's like, because I can feel you're puffy, so you might be getting ready to have a flare up. And I've been
Mm.
having really vivid dreams lately. So when you said that, I was like, oh, that's
Oh,
really interesting
interesting.
because I didn't realize that that could be a correlation.
Yeah.
Because I
Ultimate.
always thought of dreams of like just kind of processing your day and dealing with like emotional things, like,
Mm-hmm.
you got into an argument with somebody at work and it didn't get resolved, and you're afraid that, it's going to get back to your boss. And so then you have a dream that you're, running away from a monster. And I never really thought of it as actually like indicators of things that are going on with your body, which kind of makes sense because your brain is part of your body and it is the hub of your body. So it knows everything that's going on, even if we don't know it consciously.
Exactly. And your mental health and your physical health are connected.
Connected. Yes.
And when you're dealing with chronic conditions, your mental health can go for a ride, because even though the things that you're used to doing and coping with, your physical conditions can make yourself feel worse. Because, okay, like in your instance, I want to go for a run today, but I'm not feeling well enough to run, and that could cause you to feel upset at times, right? You're usually pretty good at saying, well, I can walk instead, or I don't have to go
Right.
outside to hike. I can use a walking pad or something. So it's just a way of looking at it. And again, that's why our self awareness and just knowledge in general is so important, because it influences how we approach things and how we look at what we're experiencing.
Right. So that makes me really want to keep a dream journal.
Yeah.
And just see, because it'd be interesting to know how our brains interpret, because we each interpret things differently in a very personal way, how my brain interprets pain and inflammation and being sick, as well as how it interprets worry, and being able to correlate what subconsciously is going on could maybe help me deal with things in a different way or inform how I move forward in my conscious life.
Yeah.
If I know this is the way my inner self is responding to this set of circumstances. So yeah, that is really interesting. So that's some homework for me.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see how to do. And of course, we always need to worry about confirmation bias or something, where if you're having dreams, oh, am I going to feel that? And then we make ourselves like we're more have that inflammation or something. But there's always different ways to look at that. But I always think it's interesting when we keep track of things and just we're like, yes, this did happen. I see what was going on here. Or I really have no idea what my mind was doing when it came up with this dream.
Right.
It wasn't related to something I watched. It wasn't related to something I did. It wasn't related to someone I know. And for other times, it's like, yep, I watched this anime, and these characters that came into my dream reminded me of these demons from this anime, and that is what happened.
Right. Yeah, I would like to be interested to read a study that has to do with recurring dreams, because I get those as well. So that would be interesting. Like, what does that mean? Like, that is, so yeah, very cool, very cool. And I know you go into it more in depth in the book as well, but that was a really interesting thing because you bring up vivid dreams throughout the book, like and at different times. So now when I go to reread it for the fourth time, I'm seeing what was going on in your life when this dream happened.
Yeah.
Okay, so now the next thing I wanted to ask you about is, so I guess we can go from vivid dreams into sleep hygiene.
All right.
And because you talk about some things, obviously, this is something that you deal with on a daily basis. It's a chronic issue for you, is sleep. So you've explored many different avenues of helping to get sleep, to stay asleep, and to get quality sleep. So can we talk about some of those things that you've tried and pros, cons, what's worked, what you feel doesn't work, etc.?
Yeah, there's so many things to look at when it comes to sleep, and I just want to let our viewers know that I wrote this book before I found out I had idiopathic hypersomnia,
Mm-hmm.
which a lot of people who have that condition have these very bizarre, vivid dreams. So I'm not sure if that was something that was lying dormant for the
Mm-hmm.
sleepiness and the brain fog until later, or if the dreams were related to trauma earlier on. So again, that's just something that I explore once in a while. But in the book, I specifically mention the sleep paralysis and what I was doing to prevent that. So, for those who have not experienced it or are thinking, what is that? Sleep paralysis is having audio hallucinations, visual hallucinations, or possibly both when you are starting to wake up. So, your eyes are open, your mind is active, but your body hasn't woken up yet. So you are seeing and hearing things, or one or the other, but not able to physically respond. This can be scary as heck, especially if you don't know what's happening. So when I learned about this, I searched how to stop this. And I go into it more, but I know we only have so much time.
Mm-hmm.
I did the opposite of what I found for someone who was trying to promote this experience because they're like, I want to have this experience. And I'm thinking in my right mind, why? So, sleeping on your back was one of them, having your arms above your head was one of them. These are things that can bring on the sleep paralysis easier. Um, so, those were some things that came to mind there. Being able to stay asleep as simple as having a darker room, having it a little cooler. That was something that was difficult for me because I'm usually so cold when I get into bed sometimes, or I wake up
Mm-hmm.
cold later. So having those layers helps. Weighted blanket for anxiety, which again, depression, anxiety, they they go together so closely. And that weighted blanket is just adds a little security. It helps calm a bit. Doing meditations, listening to rain apps, listening to a white noise app, and just drowning out any sounds that may cause sleep paralysis or may cause me to wake up later. So, this is something that you can consider as well if you are waking up to sounds because you're a light sleeper. If you are waking up to lights because you're a light sleeper. So, things coming through the blinds, like a car at night, the headlights are flashing in. For a while, I slept with a, what's the word? Sleep mask, face
A
mask.
sleep mask, yeah.
Yes. And this was so the lights wouldn't come in. But I ended up hearing something that woke me up, and I wasn't sure if it was there or not. And I laid awake, just terrified, not being able to move because I couldn't take off my my sleep mask.
Yes.
So that
That's the thing about the sleep mask. Yeah.
so it was just figuring out various things, and then much much later, I actually saw a psychiatrist for CBT for insomnia, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. So I learned things that way too about having a regular sleep schedule and avoiding blue light from like our tablets, our computer screens, our phone screens, like 1 to 2 hours before bed, and having sleep hygiene as you go to sleep, and my sleep psychiatrist said the bed's for two things: sleep and sex. So they're like, you shouldn't
Yes.
be reading in bed, you shouldn't be watching videos in bed, you shouldn't be updating your Facebook status in bed. And these are things that I was bad at before, because creativity would strike me at 2 a.m. in the morning or in the evening, and I would write all of these notes on my phone. So that was a hard habit to break.
Right. Right. I'm going to pause for 1 second.
Yeah.
There's somebody at my door.
Alrighty.
Don't know how. Oh, never mind. My son got it, and I don't know
Oh,
how to pause the video, so never mind.
well, thank you.
So you talked about sleeping on your back,
Mhm.
because ideally that's the way we're supposed to sleep. Because like sleeping on your side, I guess they say you can sleep on your side because it helps with digestion, but then it gives you strain on your neck. And then sleeping on your stomach is supposed to be like the worst thing that you can do. So it just makes me think, like, how are we supposed to sleep? I mean, you feel like bats and hang upside down. Get like a really good night's sleep.
If I remember correctly, I think it's the left side that was recommended
Okay.
for side sleepers, which doesn't make sense to me, but I sleep on my right side most of the time. And then learning about sleep apnea, people tend to have more sleep apnea events when they sleep on their back, because they have more
Okay.
pressure on their
Pressure.
chest.
Okay.
That's also when people snore more, is when they're sleeping on their back.
Yes. I do know that. I've looked myself up before. Yes.
And I've learned from my friend who regularly sees a chiropractor that it's actually best not to sleep with a pillow. I tried that for a bit and it didn't work as well for me, but it's so that your head is more in line with your spine, because the more is out of alignment, it's not great for your spine.
That's interesting because there are some Asian cultures where they don't sleep with pillows.
Interesting.
Or it's a very like it's like a towel or something very thin that's rolled up in place at the head of the mat that they sleep on. And in some Asian
Makes
cultures,
sense.
they sleep on the floor, or it's like, or
Mhm.
what is that bed that's like on the ground? I can't remember the name. They have a name for it, but or a platform bed. So
Okay.
it's very low to the ground and it's very flat and it's not
Mhm.
fluffy at all. Like I need a firm mattress. And I did sleep without a pillow for a little while, but I do like my pillow.
Yeah.
And I actually ordered one that's supposed to help with your neck support. So we'll see if
Ah,
that works. Because I find that I have a lot of chronic neck pain. And I'm not sure if that is Hashimoto's related or arthritis
mhm.
related or just the work that I do related. It could be all of the above.
Right.
Just be old age.
Ah, you're not old. Posture is definitely something, because if you're hunched over, and that's
Mhm.
something that I used to do as well. If I was in bed and I was on my phone a lot, or even holding my Kindle up, I would be lifting my neck and having my arms up, so you're
Yeah,
changing your shoulder, your neck, your arms, like everything in your position there, which can be hurting that as well. How interesting
right.
that we got on this subject with sleep hygiene.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, because I guess that's all part of sleep hygiene. And um, low key feel guilty a lot of times about my phone and how much I use my phone. And because I know that that's not good for any of this.
Exactly.
So, yeah. But it's like, it's my go-to thing for
Mhm.
information. I'm on the phone. I have a laptop. I could look at a laptop. I could go to the library, but I use my phone instead.
There you go.
Yeah.
And something that is important that I learned is if you are having trouble falling asleep or you're having trouble staying asleep, the best thing you can do is get out of bed and do something that's not exciting. And then just do that for a few
Huh.
minutes or 10 minutes and help you fall asleep. Dimly lit light, and then go back to bed. Because if you are staying
Oh,
in bed and doing an activity that's keeping you awake and keeping you slightly uncomfortable, that's where you're running into the
yeah.
trouble. And this is something that I learned after the book because it was when I was diagnosed with idiopathic hypersomnia. So that is
Hmm.
an extra for you.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. I like that idea. So I wrote that down. And we talked about, so this weighted blanket, I have to have a dark room. Um, Weighted blanket, a sleep mask, which, I've used a sleep mask before, but the same thing is like, it's weird to wake up, open your eyes, and you can't see,
Yeah.
but your eyes are open.
Right. It's just this dark color you have in front of you.
Right. And like if you're hearing something and you're not asleep yet, the first thing I feel like I want to do is to like look up and look around and see what it is. But if the
Hmm.
mask is on, I mean, you can take it off, but it's just a
Right.
weird feeling. And if you're a person with anxiety, it can maybe cause
E-
more anxiety.
exactly. Exactly. Like it enacted the freeze for me. Fight,
Hmm.
flight, or
Okay,
freeze. So it was the
got you.
freeze that was my response, unfortunately.
Okay. I do like the weighted blanket. So
Yeah.
when we first moved to where we live now, my son was having a lot of trouble going to sleep at night.
Oh.
And he used to have this issue when he was younger. Like if we went on vacation,
Mhm.
the first 2 nights he couldn't sleep because we were
Mhm.
someplace different, someplace new. So my sister had suggested that we get a weighted blanket. And so she sent one to us. And it's, small because it was for a child. It was a few years ago.
Yeah.
But I use it. Like I'll
Mhm.
take it and throw it over my lap if I'm like feeling anxious or over my upper body if I'm feeling anxious. And it will
Mhm.
help me go to sleep. Like it's not a lot of weight, but just that little counter pressure helps
Mhm.
a lot. And like I'll pass out. So I definitely think that weighted blanket is a great idea.
I'm glad that worked for both you and your son. It's definitely
Hmm.
something that if there is if we're not tight on space when traveling, it's something that I take with me to stay
Hmm.
with family or to stay in a hotel.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then
Mhm.
avoiding blue light. So we started, it's one of our things that we do in the afternoons. We watch like a show. Right now it's The Rookie, but it's getting ready to come to the end, come to an end. So we like to have our little show we watch. And that'll be like, dinner time. And what we'll do is we'll put on our blue light glasses so that we're starting to like block out some of that light towards the end of the night. Um,
Oh.
so that was something after I read your book. I don't know. I think you mentioned that. I don't know if you mentioned the glasses, but you might have mentioned the glasses in the book, which gave me the idea to like do that at night when I'm watching TV. Because it's even
Yeah,
coming off the TV, like you don't think about it. And the TV screen is so much bigger and in your
mhm.
face, you know.
For sure.
So then you're, I guess maybe then your phone, even if you're not on watching it as much. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I did not know that there were specific glasses for that. So I wear glasses whenever I'm awake. So I have anti glare in here and also transitions.
Hmm.
So I'm guessing the anti glare helps with the blue light.
Yeah.
Something that I noticed when my lenses are like brand new is the light hits them, it would be white or yellow, but in the lens it's almost green in a reflection.
Okay.
So,
That's interesting.
yeah.
Because I've never worn those, but yeah, I do the blue light glasses. And they have different ones that are like, and I wear nighttime glasses sometimes when I'm driving. Because I do a lot of evening driving, um, taking care of babies. And I need to plug my computer in. Today is, not my finest day with technology. Sorry, friends.
Yes, thanks for your patience. It seems that we take turns with that. Yeah, later I will need to get some recommendations on those night classes from you because that's something that I've been considering as well. I have sensitivity to light, and I
Mhm.
asked my eye doctor about if there was a film I could put on my side windows or something since you can flip
Right.
the rear view mirror. I was like, that would be cool to do. So it's good to
Yeah.
know that there's actually glasses
Yeah.
specifically
And they
for.
work for some people
Mhm.
and not for others. So there's always that to think about. And also the blue light glasses, sometimes I'll wear those and
Okay.
that helps too. But it's
Mhm.
just something that just kind of filters that light just a little bit um, from your eyes and the way it keeps it from hurting as much.
That's good.
Yeah,
Those headlights are getting brighter and brighter. It's so hard.
I know. I know. Have you seen those memes? Like the
The X-ray of the cow or something like that. Yes.
yes. I was like, oh my goodness, yes, I hate those lights. Oh goodness. So this is all really great information. Um, my next question, I guess, would be everybody kind of feels some of these things sometimes. We all go through times where we're depressed and not feeling good. We all go through times where, whatever our mood is, we're snacking more, sleeping more, or sleeping less and snacking more. Um, we're having dreams. We talked about dreams. So all of this
Mhm.
stuff, some of it can be considered quote unquote normal.
Yeah.
So when would you say is a good time to maybe talk to your doctor or get help or yeah.
Yeah. So this will vary for everyone, but when you or possibly someone else is noticing that this is interfering in your daily life. So it's not just once in a while where you're not able to get out of bed or you're not able to get off the couch or think of anything to look forward to. This is something that is happening every day, maybe for a week or two.
Mhm.
Um, this is something when you need to think about getting help is when you are doing your regular activities or you are with your usual people and things just feel out of control. You're not able to focus. You're you're not able to. I'm thinking of a word. I will come back to it.
Mhm.
But you are not able to do your daily tasks to live a daily life.
Mhm.
You can think about it as, did I just go 4 days without washing my face? Did I shower this week? I don't know if I showered. So you can think about it in those ways where things that should not be on your mind that you really need to plan and ask yourself, did I do these things?
Right. Like it should be
Second nature.
set right. It's something that you just do. Like you get
Yes.
up, take a
Yes.
shower, or whatever your routine is. Like mine
Yes.
was brushing my teeth.
Yeah.
Um, And I'm very aware of it now
It's good.
because I'm very aware of my teeth. And so when I don't feel like brushing my teeth, or if I'm like, did I brush my teeth? I'm like, okay, that's usually time for me to like, okay, I need to journal. I
Mhm.
need to pray or meditate or something. Um, because something in my life has gone out of control. And it's not necessarily mental health. It could just be I've just been so busy, back
Exactly.
to back clients or something like that, or kids need to go here and there. I've let my schedule get out of control and I need to like slow down and
Yes.
take a break and look at my schedule and rework things out. Um, so yeah, so that's like that's my thing. It's if
Mhm.
I brush my teeth, and why not?
Exactly.
So I
That
like
was
that.
something that came to mind as well that I almost used as an example, so I'm glad you used
Yeah.
it.
Well, the washing the face one, I have a friend who I told her about the Finch app,
Mhm.
and that was the first thing she said. She was like, I love how it asks, how it puts washing your face as a goal for the day, like as an achievement.
Yeah.
Because for her, when she was depressed, that was her thing that she stopped doing, you
Mhm.
know, like doing like she had like a self-care routine that she would do at night for her face. And so it helped her be mindful of that every day.
I'm so happy that helped your friend.
Yeah.
And again, if you're not taking care of your skin and you're somebody who has blemishes because of it, or it's just really dry and it's flaking, like if I don't moisturize enough and I get twitchy, I will rub and rub and rub, and my hubby will be like, stop rubbing, stop picking. I'm like, thank you. And then I go right back to it. So
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah. Yep. So I thank you so much for talking about this. You, in the book, Friends, she talks about, like I mentioned, bullying, but she also talks about medication. Um, you talk about different types of mental health diagnoses
Mhm.
in there. So, and it's all very, very good information, and it takes away some of the fear and some of the anxiety around having to explore medication, having to explore, am I bipolar? Um,
Mhm.
am I, and then, there's all different types of subcategories of things, it could
Yeah.
be ADHD, it could be autism, it could, there's nothing wrong with going to the doctor and having a checkup and answering those questionnaires and having them do a workup and run the tests and do a diagnosis.
Mhm.
Because all you're doing is, it's not like, oh, you have a mental illness or something wrong with you.
Right.
It's, this is the way your brain functions.
Mhm.
Now, this is how we can help you function better, or where you want to be functioning. So there's no stigma. That's the word I was thinking of in my brain. It takes the
Yes.
stigma away from it, which is what I really appreciate a lot about the book. So
Thank
share a smile.
you.
I always forget the second part. I think you said thriving in life and in treatment. So thank you so much, Elicia.
Thank you, Janae. I appreciate you, and it's always good to know that it's helped you and your daughter, and you come back to it. And yeah, it's so important to just recognize these things and get support. And something I thought about recently, and I think I mentioned it to you, is the need to self advocate. Because when I've talked about this in various places, I'm always talking about how important it is to get support, whether it's someone you're close to or a support group online or even if you're going out for that support. But there may be people who are just uncomfortable with telling anybody about what's happening. So being able to advocate for yourself, talking to your doctor, that's the only person you're going to talk to, then you need to make sure you're bringing it up, as this is something that is affecting your health in more than one way. Because we talked about how your mental health can affect your physical health, how it can affect your sleep, how it can affect your eating patterns, how it can affect your productivity at work if you're not able to carry through on task. That's the word I was thinking of earlier. And a little dysfunction there. And this is what is important to advocate for yourself and how you can do that, and just being aware, asking for resources, which can just simply be websites if you want it to be that informal, because there's a lot of information out there, resources that they can have in their office possibly, or referrals to specialists who may know more. And just the importance of, even if you don't feel that you have the support, or you're not wanting to bother someone, or you're feeling that someone doesn't care, because again, depression, anxiety lie to us and they can tell us these things. So it may be hard to just say, oh yeah, reach out to someone. Well, even if that someone is just your doctor, that is a huge step for you.
Yes, yes, I agree. Just having someone, and that's what I like about anonymous programs. So even if what you're dealing with is, not, I'm trying to say this.
If
And
you're
so,
vulnerable.
right, yeah. So even if like it's something vulnerable, you don't have to go into detail. You
Right.
can go in and just say a little bit, or you can go in and listen to other people share their experiences. And, when I joined my support group, I would go and just listen.
Mhm.
And for the first few weeks, few months, it was like listening to my story told in a slightly different way with different
Mm.
characters,
Mhm.
and then hearing how they were able to overcome that or deal with it, or if they were still dealing with it, what steps they were taking or what tools they were using to get through life day to day. That was also very helpful. And it was very validating. Because sometimes if you're not talking to anybody, it's like being in a silo. And the only thing that's going around in your head are your own thoughts, which are, like you said, lying to you.
Yes.
And so you need somebody else to validate what you're feeling, but then also to give you that kind of reality check. Like,
Mhm.
this thoughts are feelings, not facts. They're providing information,
Yes.
but it doesn't mean, but it's how you interpret that information that's important.
Mhm.
So, yes, I love that self advocacy.
Thank you. And yes, listening, knowing that others are going through this, whether they're sharing it or not, but you have the opportunity to listen to others, that's really helpful. Did
Yes.
that allow you to start sharing yourself eventually, like a month or two in or something?
Yes, it did. It did. And now I share all the time. Um, yeah, I do. Really, what it did at first was help me come to a place of acceptance
Yes.
that this was happening
Mm-hmm.
and it was okay. Like, it wasn't okay that it was happening, but it's a thing that happens. And I'm not the only person that is happening to. There are
Mm-hmm.
other people out there dealing with this. So it can be done. I liken it to someone being pregnant for the first time. It can be scary. it's an unknown. You have no idea how your body's going to respond to this, but
Mhm.
knowing that this has been done many, many times is very helpful.
Yeah.
Other women have done it. I can do it too. Other birthing people have done it. I can do it too. So, and then like when you have your second one, for me, the second one was, just as scary as the first one, actually.
Oh.
Not all women have that experience, but for me it was. And,
Mhm.
but I knew I had done it already and it was possible to do it again. So that's kind of like what support groups are like for me.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Um, I think I really enjoyed our conversation today and everything that we talked about and all the things that we hit on. And literally, what we talked about today was just like 3 pages in your book.
Yeah.
3 pages. So there's a lot of information there.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Are we thinking that we'll keep more for the next episode and wrap up?
I think so. I think so. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for having this conversation with me. And thank you for watching, everyone. Again, have a happy Mother's Day and stay inspired.
And remember to do something that makes you stronger every day. And just real quick, I'm trying to think of another little phrase, but I might be moving away from stronger every day. And maybe we'll talk about that in the next episode. So if you guys have any ideas, let me know. Bye.
Bye.